Howdy folks, Rudrose here, and I am once again asking you to mill your opponent for victory. That's right, today we are trying to do another mill deck. I think I've done one for the last 2, possibly 3 sets. This one's different though. Every other time before this I have done Amethyst Steel, but for once we are trying Ruby Amethyst, and I was definitely inspired by the list that Domingo played in the LCCC. This was a match I actually got to cast live, and I was very inspired by it. And he was playing Ruby Amethyst, but he was trying to mill his opponent. And he was using cards like Show Me More, Very Merry on Birthday, Chromacon Teapot, all ways to help mill our opponent out. So I've taken his list, I've modified it a little bit. If you saw that match, you know that he technically should have been able to mill his opponent out, but a slight mishap at the end resulted in it not happening, but he did get his opponent there. The problem is afterwards, his opponent then realizing what he's doing said, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm just going to quest super fast, and there's not much you can do about it. Which is why, once again, I am saying that mill is just for fun, casual play. I don't think this is very competitive, even if you can sneak a single game with it, like Domingo was kind of able to with his list. I think the moment they realize what you're trying to do, they'll just shift their strategy and completely go for that. So here's what we were going for. Essentially, in a mill deck, what you want is removal. You need ways to keep their characters and their lore off of the board. You need ways to draw your own cards so you can keep filtering through your deck to get to all the important cards. And you need ways to make your opponent draw cards or to get cards off the top of their deck. So the most direct versions of this are Mad Hatter, Mad Hatter's Teapot, as well as Very Merry on Birthday. All these cards can directly just take cards off the top of your opponent's deck, put them in the discard. Chromacon is a huge help with this as well, too. It's the only deck I feel 100% safe just hitting the gas on the Chromacon. Now, eventually, once your opponent realizes what you're doing, they will stop drawing with you off the Chromacon. However, that also means you just get to draw for free, which is very nice. I didn't really pay much attention to Show Me More originally, but this card is quite good as it's mandatory. They can't deny it, and when we're running a full 4 copies, as we are in here, if you add that up, that's 12 cards, 12 guaranteed cards you get off of their deck. Yes, there is still nothing quite as strong as A Whole New World, but I was impressed by how close this one got. So let's talk about some of the tech pieces. As you can see, there's a lot of control removal options here. Snake, Fox, Crab, Maui. These are all control pieces. This is just to challenge characters, challenge locations, and to have removal. Same with Medusa, same with Tremaine. They are just there to keep the board clean. Same with Yzma. Not only is she inkable, she's spot removal, and she's spot removal that makes them draw 2 cards. It's mandatory. So she also helps you mill them out. You could technically use it on your own stuff, but that's not really the point here. Same with Earth Giant. He's got really good stats for a 4 cost, and he makes them draw a card mandatory. They cannot avoid that. We are not trying to quest for lore here. The goal is 100% to win by decking them out. Because what's even the point? If you're just going to end up questing anyway, you might as well just be playing a better version of Ruby Amethyst. Chernabog's just here for card draw. The One of Donald, he hasn't really come up, but on that rare cheeky instance where they think they're going to win and a Donald just keeps them at bay long enough for you to get their deck empty, he seems like a fun idea. Something I threw in that Domingo wasn't running was Pirate's Life, as, again, it's just another way to help stall the game, right? That, let's say they have something you just can't remove or you can't find your Be Prepared to clear the board. This can help keep the lore low off of them. You don't care how much it gives it to you, and it can be sung by Yzma, Tremaine, Medusa, Donald, and since they're not trying to quest unless they're challenging, it's just a good way to help keep their lore low. And that's it. It's actually very simple and very straightforward. Now, there is a card potentially missing from here that you may have noticed in Domingo's list, a card that seems like it was built for mill, and that's this Madame Medusa. Why is this card not in here? Because I think this card is terrible and is poorly designed, and I think this is an instance where the design team could learn something, right? So here's the point. This card is clearly meant to mill your opponent. Whenever this character quests, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to put the top 3 cards of chosen player's deck into their discard. So the main benefit of this card is that you are taking 3 cards from the top of their deck into the discard. Now this last portion is a very strong effect. So why are we not running this? Because this card is insanely slow. It is a 4 cost with no entry effect. So the turn you play it, it just sits there. Secondly, and this is why this card is poorly designed, it requires you to have another character to get its effect off, which means if it's alone on the board, and often it will be, this isn't helpful to you because you can't then use the effect. And thirdly, and this is the biggest problem with it, why is this on quest? If anything, this effect should be on challenge. Why are you questing? You are trying to win by milling your opponent, so why would you ever be questing? There is zero reason to quest. The whole point of this is you're trying to stop your opponent. So you should be either challenging with this character, which is what always happened, and if you watch Domingo, he never got this effect off because he didn't have time. His opponent is going so fast, you need to challenge with this card. You don't have time to sit here and quest. How this card should have read, and forgive my badly created proxy, but it should have read something like this. Actually useful. Either challenge or, in this case, exert Medusa. Don't quest, just exert. Notice she has no lore pips, and you just deal 2 damage to a chosen opposing character. Then you put the top 3 cards of opponent's deck into their discard. And because it would be locked to Amethyst Ruby, which I know you don't see on this fake version, that would be great. Yes, that's strong, but one, it's locked to these colors. 2, it doesn't help your win condition. It's pure removal, and 2 damage is actually less than her challenging power. So, and oftentimes it might just be better to challenge anyway, but at least that fits the theme. It makes 0 sense that in order to get this effect, you have to not only have all these conditions of another character, and she's got to wait a turn, that then she's questing. No, make it on challenge. So I don't think Medusa is worth it, despite the fact that, yes, if you could get her effect off over and over again, 3 cards is a really good chunk to put in there, but I don't think it's worth it. I think it's too slow, and in any of these matches you're going to see, you just don't have time for that. Your opponent is not going to be going so slowly that you have time to sit there and durdle like that. So let me show you a few matches, and you can see if we can get some mill victories. As a reminder, since we are using the Ink Table AI opponent, just keep in mind that, they don't always make the best decisions, and they don't make a lot of decisions that humans are going to make, so always take these with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, it's a good showcase for the deck. One thing the AI definitely does is they will always draw with you on Chromacon. Like, the only time they'll stop drawing is when they get to, like, 5 cards left in deck, when they go, looks like you're actually trying to hurt us. Maybe I should stop doing that. With the Hatter, you can also technically check your own deck, but there's no reason to ever do that. Early Hatter is good, especially when they don't have any pressure, and you can just start ripping cards off the top of their deck. An uncontested Hatter like this is going to get as much value as possible, and this is red-blue. I will say, I think this works best against control decks like this, decks that are also going to take a little bit of time. I tried, and I mean I tried, so many matches against aggro decks with this mill strategy. Yeah, it doesn't work. Chromacon just gives them so many characters that they could just keep vomiting out onto the board, especially if they have something like Lilo, where they can just revive it over and over and over and over and over again, and you're going to run out of removal. You'll run out of that far before they ever run out of characters to put out. So against aggro, this strategy is not going to work at all. It's just simply too fast, and that's pretty common. It was the same way in Magic the Gathering, Final Fantasy. Pretty much any other game I've played where mill is the game plan, aggro decks are just far too fast. So your whole goal with this, establish your Chromacons as quickly as you can. As a matter of fact, in your opening hand, that's probably the one card I'd look for more than anything else. I do like Earth Giant early, just because he can put out some big stats, and you're essentially trying to get to your Be Prepared turn. Anything you can do to slow the game down and drag it out, the longer it goes, the better for you. Computer draws with us with Chromacon both times. They're already down to 23 cards left in deck. So if we can use things like Be Prepared, Very Merry End Birthday to just keep peeling those cards off the deck. And if they do any card draw, such as a Flaversham, they're essentially just playing into our game plan all the more. Get our lore and we'll mop up the board with it. Be Prepared. You may have noticed there are 62 cards in the list. I always believe when you're running a mill list that you should run just a little more than the standard 60. That way, because you're going to be drawing a lot of cards too, and you always want to make sure you have just that little bit of insurance policy in order to get ahead of your opponent. As you notice too, one thing I don't like about the teacups or the teapots is that they're very expensive, not only 2 to get down, but 1 to activate each turn, which doesn't sound like much. And it's not once you get to these high ends of the inkwell. And by the way, you should be inking every single turn. The more ink you can spend every turn, the better, and you're going to have as much ink as possible. If you can sing 2 Pirates' Lives, you're happy to do that, as I sing it there with the Tremaine and mill them out. Yeah, the teapots are just so expensive because, again, in the early game, for the most part, you're going to have to be answering your opponent's board. Now, if they happen to brick, like the computer happened to do here, then yeah, maybe you'll get a little bit of free time. But for the most part, you're always doing that. So Show Me More might come in handy here, as I'm going to need to draw my own cards. And you do not want to be caught without your own cards. So we'll send the Hatters in, keep peeling some stuff off, put out the Chernabog as well as the Show Me More. We don't care if they get rid of that. And the more time an opponent spends challenging you, not questing, you're happy with that. That's actually one of the things I really enjoy about the mill as a strategy, is that normally there's a lot of things that normally matter in the game that suddenly you don't care about. You know, when you're trying to win through questing, you need your characters to stay on board. So you need them to not be banishing your characters. But when you're just trying to mill them out, you don't care about that. You can get rid of every single character you want. The only thing you care about is them hitting 20 lore. Nothing else matters. As long as they're not hitting 20 lore, then you're golden. Nice little lucky dime coming down there. Of course, they end up banishing it, which is another play where the computer doesn't always do the wisest thing available. Still haven't seen a Be Prepared yet, and I've had a few of these matches too where I've lost just because I just simply couldn't find the Be Prepared. I think Chromacon really is one of the key cards of this deck. You need a way to just keep gassing your hand and dig and get to that turn 7, because otherwise they can go fast enough and knock you out. In a board like this, like without Be Prepared, look how wide they can go. We don't have enough rush characters, and we don't have enough cost-efficient removal. Like, okay, I can put a Medusa down and take out one card. I could have challenged with the Chernabog there, but I was just trying to dig for the Be Prep. I'm like, oh, for the goodness sake, get me a Be Prepared. We established a teapot. Doesn't matter. There goes Medusa. Well, I hope I can find this Be Prepared. Still no Chromacon. As our opponent can just flood the board. It essentially is just daring me. Okay, you want to give me all these cards? Here, show me you've got that Be Prepared. Well, I definitely can't do that. And I'm pretty much hosed here. I can do a Maui. Try to take the lore down, take out a Flaversham. I don't think there was anything in there that was questing for 2, and we can brawl. So we at least get 2 things off there, and you can see I'm still struggling to get cards in hand. I need a way to get cards, or I need that Be Prepared if I have any chance of getting out of this. Because what did I say we care about? 20 lore? Well, that's what we're going towards here. 20 lore, and our opponent will also not. However, they also have 1 card left in deck, so we don't even need it at this point. I wasn't even watching the deck count. Because, again, the computer gets way too overzealous about that, so. If you noticed at the end of the game there, too, I purposely also showed Very Merry on Birthday when they had 0 cards in their deck. That will not get you the victory condition. For whatever reason, this is the way I know it worked in Magic the Gathering, so it looks like Lorcana has just ported it over. What actually causes your opponent to lose is not having any cards in deck. It's when they go to draw a card from their library and they are unable to. So even though they had 0 cards in deck, casting Very Merry on Birthday or using the Teapot or using anything that would simply empty the deck of cards, that will not actually secure a victory for you. They have to try to draw a card. So what you can do is use something like Yzma. If they have nothing in deck, you put a character into the deck, they're forced to draw 2, they can only draw 1, the 1 character you put in there, and then they would lose. Or use something like the Earth Giant, which forces them to draw a card. So just something to keep in mind when you're trying to mill your opponents out that way. Peak can be such a pain. We don't have the Be Prep turn yet, so it's a good thing they didn't wait for 1 turn, but here comes the Medusa. If it can survive, which it probably won't, we can use the Pirate's Life. Yeah, it won't survive, but that's okay. I'm about to send this entire board packing. And this is honestly the scariest turns in the deck, is trying to get that turn 7, trying to get to that Be Prepared. After that, I usually feel pretty in control, at least against these control variants. But getting to that Be Prepared is probably the scariest part. In a card like this Tamatoa, we don't want them to put down a lucky dime because suddenly they can start getting a lot of quick lore that we just don't want them to have. But they're already down to 14 cards left in deck. So again, and this is one thing that will translate to real opponents is until there's always a certain point where they will switch and realize, okay, I can't keep drawing with you on these Chromacons, but they're also trying to draw their own cards and progress their own strategies. So just be aware this will be more difficult against human opponents because they will not draw as much as the AI absolutely loves to draw. But we should have it here. Only 5 cards left in deck. I sing the Pirate's Life. Show me more. There's 3. There's Teapots. Yeah, it's over. And I use the Earth Giant to close it out. Do I think this is fun? Absolutely. And I actually kind of like this version better than the old Amethyst Steel versions, maybe just because I'm a Ruby Amethyst player at my core, or maybe just because Be Prepared does so much more than any of the removal in that deck ever did. So I do think this version's more fun. I still just don't quite think it's competitive. We either need to mill faster, or just something in the game would have to change in order for it to be like meta competitively viable. But nonetheless, I have a good time with it. If you want just a different play style, I highly recommend it. As always, the deck list will be in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give a like and subscribe to the channel. We're closing in on 2,000 subs, and your help can get us there. Check out the description of the video for links to our Metafy page, where we offer private coaching, and consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member for exclusive bonuses. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.